Given that Mikhail Saakashvili, having put his signature on a modified variant of the Moscow Principles, continues to ignore them, we're convinced that recognition of South Ossetia and Abkhazia is the only feasible step for the survival and security of these nations.
Abkhazia and South Ossetia have been de facto independent from Georgia since the early 90s. When Kosovo unilaterally proclaimed its independence, they thought they had a precedent to defend their cause. But they lacked one crucial factor: the support of the US and the EU.
In both cases, the centre started the war. Belgrade under Milosevic against Kosovo, and Tbilisi under Gamsakhuria against Tinval and Sukhum. In both cases, agreements over the end of hostilities were reached. In both cases, peacekeeping forces were deployed. In both cases, negotiation mechanisms were created. Since then, Belgrade has never questioned these mechanisms or tried to destabilize the region by using force. The international negotiating mechanisms were abolished by the actions of Kosovo Albanians and their Western supporters.
As the Georgian military launched an attack against South Ossetia, the US threw its full support behind Georgia and accused Russia of a disproportionate response. NATO is now sending its vessels to the Black Sea to provide humanitarian aid. The US and some NATO members are ready for an anti-Russian coalition. Among possible sanctions, to suspend the NATO-Russia Council, not to let Russia into the WTO, and to boycott the Winter Olympics 2014 in Sochi. In 1980, the US boycotted the Summer Olympics in Moscow. It was their response after the Soviet Union entered Afghanistan to fight the Taliban. The Taliban that NATO have been fighting since 2001.
NATO, as an organization, wanted to sign an agreement with us on the transit of non-military cargo for the supply of their contingents in Afghanistan.
Russia says the main goal of the recognition is to provide security for its own citizens in the region and the people of South Ossetia and Abkhazia. Moscow had a first-hand promise from Mikhail Saakashvili that he would never use force. They had a ceasefire agreement that Georgia violated on the 7th of August when it shelled Tsimbal. With another promise and peace plan in its hands, Russia is not taking chances anymore.